Well, I had a nice day away, and over the weekend visiting my children and getting to take a little bit of a break with my wife. So it was nice to be out of town and have a chance to get away for a little bit after all the activity we've had this fall that's been fairly significant. Obviously, we are in the process of doing our final pickup here of Hurricane Sally debris. It will be scheduled for November 16th. City residents are reminded that the final pass for Hurricane Sally debris collection is scheduled for Monday, November 16th, and that residents should place all remaining debris curbside now for collection. Not every location will be picked up by November 16th or on November 16th. So again, you really need to have it out now this week to ensure that it gets collected by the 16th. City crews and contractors have collected over 12,000 loads of debris, totaling 527,319 cubic yards since collection began. Please visit cityofpensacola.com for information on how to sort and place your debris. I want to thank all of our contractors. Certainly, it will probably be nice to have to not have those berthas on the road anymore, and so we will not be having those shortly on the road. But I really appreciate. Thank God they were here. We got a lot of collection done. It's amazing. 527,315 cubic yards. That is a lot of debris. So again, Sally was a Category 2, but it definitely, we bore the brunt of it right on that right side of what happened, and we see it in the debris that we're having to pick up and everything else. So it was a significant impact to us. Obviously, this has significantly impacted our tree canopy. Seeing Brian Cooper in the back, I know we've already charged him with coming together with a plan for some of our tree planting fund while we're in the middle of this winter, in some of our parks that did sustain damage and tree loss. So we're beginning to bring something back that we will hopefully plant some new trees. If you're going to have, and I know Andrew up here loves some of our incredible tree canopy that we have, but you can't have it in the future without planting trees today. So we are going to start doing that, and now's the time for us to start planting as we get into the winter when the trees are dormant and we can replant and have them ready to go by the spring. So we will be in the process of doing that. Veterans Day closures. Veterans Day is Wednesday, November 11th. The following City of Pensacola offices and facilities will be closed on Wednesday: City Hall, City of Pensacola Administrative Offices, City of Pensacola Community Centers. With the exception of the Osceola Golf Course and Roger Scott Tennis Center, they will remain open. Also, for your sanitation, if you're on a Wednesday route, it will be Thursday, and if you're on a Thursday route, it will be Friday. So you will have pickup. Again, Wednesday routes will be Thursday this week, and Thursday routes will be Friday. So hopefully everybody's got that. We will get it picked up. So we have all that on sanitation as well. How to do business with your local government virtual workshop. The public is invited to join the Gulf Coast Minority Chamber of Commerce in the City of Pensacola for a free virtual workshop designed for businesses to establish a working relationship with their local government. The How to Do Business with Local Government workshop will be held virtually on Thursday, November 12th at 2 p.m. via Microsoft Teams. Please get in touch with the Gulf Coast Minority Chamber. I know that we are moving forward on the covenant. We have several projects that are in the works, construction projects. We are implementing the covenant, which really focuses on getting local businesses and local employees involved with our construction, and we'll be implementing that here. And it also allows us to do some targeting at some of those minority contractors. The challenge is if we don't know who you are and you're not registered with us and you haven't gone through the opportunities that Brian Weir and the Gulf Coast Minority Chamber are putting on, we don't know you're out there, and we don't know how to get involved with you and let you know of those solicitations and bids as we move forward. So if you have a small business there, a minority business, we ask that you get together with the Gulf Coast Minority Chamber. Participants can learn about registering their business and procedures for bidding and procurement and future business opportunities with local government. For more details on how to participate, visit cityofpensacola.com. We ask that you take this time to get involved in work so that we know you and get registered. Deadline extended for CRA Garden Street beautification comment period. I think with Hurricane Zeta, we took a little bit of comment, but we realized we probably missed some. So the Pensacola Community Redevelopment Agency is offering an extension on the public comment period for the Garden Street Landscape Buffering Project. The public can submit comments using the online form. So again, please go to cityofpensacola.com / Garden Street landscape. So Garden Street, Garden ST landscape. You have through 5 p.m. today, Monday, November 9th, to make comments. So we ask that you please make comments today if you have comments on the beautification for Garden Street. The Garden Street Landscape Beautification Project includes landscape improvements to Garden Street median between Alkanese and A Street. So again, we will be working between Alkanese and A, doing a beautification of that area, which also sort of fits into the other things that we're trying to do with landscaping and tree planting going forward. B Street and Gimbel Stormwater Rehabilitation Project has begun today on November 16th. The construction of the B Street and Gimbel Stormwater Rehabilitation Project will begin Monday, November 16th. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm a week ahead. It's not today's the 9th. It will actually begin next Monday. So this is letting you know that is going to happen. We will repair and rehabilitate a 54-inch stormwater pipe located near Joe Petty's Seafood. The project includes rehabilitating a large 54-inch metal stormwater pipe that runs from B and Gimbel beneath Joe Petty's Seafood business parking lot and discharges it in the A Street ditch. This existing stormwater pipe is several decades old and is in significant disrepair in numerous locations. Construction is expected to take approximately 60 days to complete, weather permitting. For questions about this project, please contact City of Pensacola Public Works and Facilities. Their number is 435-1645. I'm sure the new online the projects that we have, they can find it there as well, correct, Casey? They'll be able to find information on that project with our new Public Works.
I believe so. Well, that's a capital improvements project, Matt.
Okay.
On if this is a capital improvements project.
Gotcha. Well, we're going to work with Derek to try to make sure all of our things are on there. So we will absolutely be doing that. So again, right now it's capital improvements, but I would love to see all repairs have the ability to have access and citizens to be able to see that. Upcoming city council meetings. Today, Monday, November 9th, the City Council Agenda Conference at 3:30, right in the City Council chambers. Community Redevelopment Agency immediately following the agenda review. The agenda review starts at 3:30. And then also on Thursday, November 12th, the council regular meeting, 5:30 in council chambers. This will be the last meeting for a number of council members that we have certainly enjoyed their service, and they have done a lot for the City of Pensacola. But whenever you go into these positions, you hold them temporarily. We all know that. At some point, you will complete your service, and many of those council members will be completing their service this week, and I can't say how grateful I am to them and the time that they've given. Various things change people's minds about why they looking to step away, but again, we certainly appreciate. But we will have a number of new council members, and we still apparently have. I came back over the weekend and thought I'd understood the correction was done, and made calls to congratulate after the recount, but I understand that we still have some time left for certification. So apparently there are 5 outstanding ballots that may come in. So who knows what may happen with our council races, but we will know who that last council member is for District 1 by the end of the week. I know I've talked with David Stafford, and again, I want to come back and with all the things that are going on everywhere. I'm a 3-time canvassing board member with Escambia County's canvassing board. I even did half of the election this year when Commissioner Bender had some COVID exposure. So I went and served on the canvassing board for a number of days and did that. let me tell you, no matter how you feel about elections, one way or another, who wins or loses, you know one thing is, I can say in Escambia County, it's the right way. They've done right. The state of Florida, obviously in 2000, was kind of the national joke, but I think we find ourselves 20 years later as perhaps the example. Again, everything was known in Florida and was successfully known and counted by the time we got to, those things were known by the time we got there. So I think if other states could emulate the same model, we might have some of these problems that are happening in other places. I do stand by, what Florida's in positions, and again, regardless of whoever you're looking for, I think Florida has shown that they can get this right. We obviously spent a lot of time and energy learning how to do it right after we did it wrong or had challenges in 2000. So I believe, I believe very much in the system, having been a 3-time canvassing board member. I think they do an incredible job. I know that David Safford and his team do an incredible job, and I'm sure they will get this one finished and certified by Friday. So again, we expect to have that done as well. COVID numbers, we are looking now with 14,334 positive cases in Escambia County. Again, 12,843 of those are residents. We have seen our positivity numbers go up. We're at on Saturday we were at 10.56, which is 7.4 on the 5th, and 4.49 the week shows 5.08. Our hospitalizations, again, we're at I know on the 6th we moved down back under 50. I think we're back at 59. We moved from 54, 59, 62, 64, and then back down under 60 again by the end of the week. And we are in the process of getting the weekend numbers from all the hospitals. So obviously we continue to see some things that are happening. I'm not seeing at least the same challenges that I have not heard that are in some parts of the country that we're having. But I do think one of the things that is interesting, and we'll see what happens. Clearly, we've seen our positivity in numbers go up. It hasn't translated as much into hospitalizations at this particular time, but it will be interesting to see over the weekend what happened. But again, I think this also kind of shows some things that could be happening with the virus. That again, we have people getting the virus, but we don't have the severity in hospitalizations that we had prior, which is something we thought we'd eventually see a change in virility. And then we continue to hear there may be some possibility of something dealing with vaccine, and we'll certainly work with that as much as we can if it comes out and is successful. But I think right now what we're trying to stay up on is both understanding our positivity rates and our hospitalizations, and tracking and see what they do. And if they go in different directions, that's not necessarily a bad thing either. That certainly means perhaps the virus is getting less, the virility is going down, which is expected at some point. We just didn't know when that would happen. But again, we will continue to keep tracking hospitalizations. From our standpoint, hospitalizations are the most important part of what we believe we need to be following. Again, if somebody gets it, they go home, they quarantine for 2 weeks, and they're better. It's unfortunate. We don't want anybody to get it, but at the end of the day, they've moved forward and come back to work, and we all deal with our own personal health and get it moving forward. What we want to prevent are hospitalizations and deaths. That's obviously the most. Not every death happens in a hospital, but the vast majority of them do. So at some point, if we can stop people from going to the hospital, that's the main number we're trying to track and we're trying to keep down. So again, I think some of the challenges that we've run into, it's normal course. This is what we said 6-8 months ago. If you get into a time period of low threat, it's easy for us to get complacent. And obviously, I think some of the things we need to do now are looking at that and being more vigilant about all the things we've talked about, avoiding closed spaces, congested areas. All of these things are important that you avoid. And again, wash your hands, social distance, and wear masks. So again, I think if we practice on those three, we'll be successful. There's no doubt. I understand that people get lax and tired, and again, I see this as more of a long-term communal health issue that we'll be dealing with, and we just need to be vigilant about it and continue to keep doing what we need to do. That's about all I have at this particular time. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Yes.
Mayor, glad you had a great weekend. A lot of people are still post-traumatic stress over the elections. But Pensacola is on the verge here of becoming a female majority on council. Kenyatte Broughton handily, I think, won her race. But up in District 1, Jennifer Breyer is in a tight, she's on the verge, perhaps, as you know, of winning this. What's going on in District 1? I mean, P.C. Wu has been there, a very respected council member for many years. Is this the year of the woman, or does Hitzman Park play a role in this?
You know, I don't know. We've had a number of women serve us on the council for a long period of time. I mean, this past term we had 3. I think the bigger challenge is you know, we potentially could find ourselves as a city with 6 city council members with less than 2 years experience, and I think that speaks to time. I think the other time that we really saw this a significant time period when I was on the commission, we had a time period where we had almost 4 new commissioners with 2 years or less, and that's 80% of the commission was like that. And I think it comes from we were in 2008, which was another period of significant change, turmoil, and challenges. So I think it's common for electorates to experience a traumatic period like this to look at this. At the same time, that race is very tight at this particular time. Like I said, I came home last night and heard the recount. I called both PC and I called Ms. Breyer, and I talked with both of them, and both of them said they were waiting to see what was going to happen with the potential 5 votes that may come in. So obviously anything can happen, and it will be certified Friday. But if that does, I mean, I think it's more a case of, I think women have always been critical in what we've been able to do. I think as much as anything else, this is about change and what you're dealing with. And I think whenever you have traumatic situations and challenges going on, I mean, there was Hitzman Park, there was the vote of the Confederate statue, there's dealing with COVID, there are a variety of issues why people seem to think that, but even that, it's a very tight race. So, I mean, PC has been an institution here. I mean, when you go to the Northwest Florida League of Cities, the major award they give is the PC Wu Award. He's been an important ambassador for us in the city, out across the state of Florida. So he's done an incredible job. I think sometimes there are just challenges that get there, and all boards see this. There are a number of people who whether it's across county commissions or city councils across the state of Florida saw the same thing. So I think it's always a challenge when you have challenges and turmoil and change. It creates a different electorate. But we'll see what happens going forward. I think obviously the biggest challenge we have is kind of it'd be nice to get the health underway and stabilized. Again, as I've said many times, we've actually come through this a fairly strong economy locally, despite dealing with COVID. What we've seen at our places with airport, our tourism, we've been stronger than national average. And this is despite a hurricane and a variety of other things. So, it's hard to say what may happen, but the turmoil we've had within the last 12 months has been substantial. But I look at where we're coming out, and to have gone through as many things as we've gone through, and to have gotten through those things and move forward with the community and the position that we are in, I think we're in a good position. Like I said last week, and I showed you all the people we have here. I couldn't feel better about the people we have at the City of Pensacola and the work that we're doing at the City of Pensacola than right now. I think we've got an excellent team, and we're doing excellent things. And despite the challenges that the external world is bringing on us, obviously election, the good news is we won't elect a president for another 4 years. So at least maybe we'll have some respite for a little while. But again, I think it's just one of those things that happens.
What are your thoughts on the presidential election?
I mean, it seems like this is where we're going, where these things take longer and longer to decide. you know, I am very adamant that to an extent, I've always been a believer in the Electoral College and the other parts, because we are the United States. We're not the United People of America. We are the United States. So I understand that each state has its ability to have its own election law and procedures, and I get that. And I have no problem with that. I do wish, and I do think, as we come out of this election, I think Florida, not because of how it voted, but because of the procedures that it did and implemented, shows a much better system than other states in how it can be done and be done in an effective way by the time you get done, and you know who's generally won. If it's not within 5 votes or so, you'll know who's won by that night on the election night. I stand by that. I think, having been canvassing board 3 times and gone through it and see what happens and see what a canvassing board does, I believe Florida's elections are as good as can be done. And I think when you look at us moving and modernizing away from other equipment, yet still keeping the equipment that we have, that allows us to have a physical, tangible ballot to go back and recount and access and find. And any of you that were there apparently Saturday see what the process is like, and they can find every single ballot, and they do. And it may take some time, but they can do it. They can place their hand on it, they can count them, and physically figure out what's there. A system like that, it would be great if the other 49 states had the same system. But I'm going to brag a little bit about Florida, because I think Florida has done it right. I'm going to say 2000, we were the joke, but I do believe by 2020, Florida is a standard that other states could look to and take a look at and see how to do it better. Some of it is minor changes in law that would allow them to actually count some of those mail-in ballots before they get there. Florida does that. I mean, when I was canvassing for a week, we had people opening ballots and sending them through the machine so that they were at least counted, so we would know who won what race on election night, rather than a week afterwards still wondering if we actually had it right or not. So I think that instills a lot more faith. I don't see anybody, even a race as hotly contested as the one that was mentioned earlier. Nobody's up here banging on the door saying, Florida screwed it up or fraud or whatever. I don't see that happening. I think from that standpoint, Florida and Floridians should be proud of their election process. And however the ultimate election goes, we'll work with it and deal with it and move forward and interact. As I've said always, the elections that always matter more to me are the ones that are closer to home, because that has the biggest impact on me. The ones as I get further away from Pensacola, they matter less and less to me. One way or another, we'll work with who's ever in there. I've worked as a commissioner with both individuals who are on the congressional thing, and we'll continue to work. I mean, obviously Florida has voted for Trump, but if the national election goes, we'll work with whoever there. I mean, we still are a significant red area. I think the other balloting shows what happened, and we'll continue to work within that. I think our military will continue strong presence. We'll continue to produce some of those things, but it is interesting how nuances change across the city and the Northwest Florida. Obviously, I think the city is a little bit more purple in the way it thinks and the way it views itself, and we will continue to keep pursuing those things. I think at a local level, purple solutions are the way to go. I've been very adamant up here. Last week, I talked about it 2 weeks ago. I said, we're neither red nor blue. We are a purple place. We find a way to figure out what's the best thing to move Pensacola, Florida. That's going to continue to be the most important thing for Pensacola, is how do we move it forward. And those things will be, sometimes there'll be things that are red, sometimes there'll be things that are blue. Again, we focus on those purple solutions that continue to move us forward.
Any early thoughts to 2022?
Man, I mean, that's a long way away. So, my hope is at least we continue to do it. If we continue to do a good job at canvassing and creating elections that are responsible and disciplined in how they exercise, and they're accurate and correct, that's all that matters, whether it's 2022, 2024. wherever it is. Yeah.
You said the city would, on the national level, work with whoever gets in there. I know the election's, not certified or anything, but do you still consider the presidential contest an open question?
I can't. I mean, from a national level, it will deal. I'm not speaking on any other states' area of operations or what's happened. So I'm not. Again, whatever they certify and who they send to the electoral college and how that then votes, that'll be the way it goes. And I will support whatever happens in that context. Again, it's every state has its process. Florida has its process, and I stick by the process by which Florida has. I feel very confident in their elections. Participated in it on the other side as a referee. I stand by and believe we have a sound system here in Florida. And what happens in other states, that's what happens there. But I will believe whatever they end up certifying, that's what ends up happening, and we move on as a country and go forward.
Do you have any thoughts on the lease that is up for the Amtrak building on this week's council agenda?
Yeah, this is the one with Michelle Caldwell that we've been talking about for some time. We're going to give her a lease. I think there'll be a time period that asks for her to produce the amount of money she's got, that she could do something. So it gives her some time to find that. It's kind of been a chicken or the egg thing. I totally understand from Michelle's standpoint, 2020 could not have been a worse year for not-for-profits. So I think going forward and giving her some time, and we'll see what can happen with there. But I do believe there has to be some kind of a deadline by which you can either produce, you are producing, or you're not producing. And I think as long as the council creates that, it gives her an ability to show she has control of the property and working it forward. I think that gives her the opportunity to go raise the money. At that point, it's on her and what happens from there going forward. I think at least what she's doing with the monument is a very important part, and we've talked about everything else, and we've talked about potentially our women being the majority of council, and I think the fact that we've never had a monument that has been dedicated to women in our military and our veterans is important, especially as we sit here on the eve of Veterans Day. So I think much of what she's trying to accomplish is very honorable, and it's great that Pensacola has a chance to be a part of it. I think the challenge is that outside the monument, I think she could work on her plan about how she'll pull together different sources of revenue, and I think she should be open to trying to look at that space if there are other parties that she can work with and they can bring funding into it. I think that she should be receptive to looking at that. Ultimately, she's going to have to get her funding by a certain deadline period, and I think as long as we can have that in there and then move forward and really give her some time to do it when it's not 2020. I mean, I think the last year we gave her time. When we started in November, we didn't realize what 2020 was going to look like. There could not have been a worse year for raising money for something like that than this year. It just was a terrible year in a lot of different ways. The challenges of just getting funding because of challenges with the economic situation at the start of COVID, and then even though people are giving, by the time you get to the fall and you end up dealing with the number of hurricanes that we've dealt with, when you're competing with a chance for people to give dollars to something else that's much more tangible that they've experienced. I think many people have given funding for hurricane relief because it's such a much more tangible experience to all of us. But I certainly hope people will support her and give. I think having a national monument that's connected to females and female veterans, I think, is very important, and I applaud her on everything that she's working on.
Do you know what's going on with the light at Barrancas and Garden? Is that
Yeah.
a permanent change, or what's going on there?
And I've been gone for 4 days, so I don't know whether we've resolved it or if it's still blinking or what's happening. I do know we talked, I guess prior to Halloween, we knew as soon as it was done. First time I drove through it, I contacted Derek immediately and said, "Hey, the blinking light at Barrancas and Garden, He said, we're aware of it. We've already talked to DOT. All the light signals on Garden, because Garden is a state road, are controlled by FDOT. The city does not control any of those. Just understanding the jurisdictional balance of what happens. If you have a traffic signal on a state road, even if it is a city or county road that comes into it, because if it's on a state facility, it is controlled by DOT. It is not controlled by the city. Now, we were told, we turned it over immediately and notified DOT, so they were aware of it. They did have someone come and check it. Apparently, at the same time, there was another one on the east side of town as well that also was blinking at the same time. Same problem. Both of them had a short of some kind with a part that was in there. They replaced the part on one of the boxes, but the other one they had no more parts. Obviously, with COVID and where we are, we all know the supply chain is significantly disturbed and messed up. And again, no one is getting parts as fast as they were before COVID. So again, this is sort of one of those victims of what's happening with the worldwide supply chain. But my understanding was they were trying to get one as fast as possible. We were actually contributing some parts to the new cabinet that we would eventually be. They would give us back stuff, but we knew how important it was. The last time I talked to Derek, we were offering to help any way we could. If we could provide some of the parts, we would be happy to. We didn't have everything to deal with the short, but again, we were happy to help in any way we could. But it's not our light. It's DOT's light, and they're going to have to fix it. So it's their traffic signal. Any part that we had, but the main short part, we didn't have it either. So it's just part of the challenges that we're all working with COVID and what it's done to the overall supply chain.
So definitely not an experiment.
No, not an experiment. Not intended to. It meant to go back to red, green, and yellow, but at this particular time, the box is messed up, and the part is on the way. Is what I've been told, but I couldn't tell you when that will be completed. It's you need to talk to FDOT.
Mayor, is the East Garden District streetscape coming back to council this week?
We're apparently with the CRA. We're still taking public comment. I don't know if it's.
This is the Jefferson Street streetscape.
Oh, Jefferson Street.
North, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. That one will be coming back to council. Yes, it was. And again, it was pulled there was some confusion as to whether the intention was to already extend it and postpone it to this meeting. There was some confusion that didn't happen. And when there were some conversations last week, it was moving. It's going to move forward. I think. Councilman Moore, who is the chair of the CRA, is bringing that forward as asking for an add-on because that was the intention, and I don't know how it messed up and didn't get carried forward, but that was the intention from last time. And so I know when the discussion happened, that is coming forward. I think there was I had a citizen contact me about asking had they not heard about anything. We gave 3 weeks for the applicant to be able to get with their neighbors. I got a text from him last week that said, yeah, he had a chance to at least meet with all of his neighbors and explain to them what was happening. So I think he's moving that forward.
Mayor, has there been any more development on your homeless initiative?
Yeah, we are. I think we're working on a couple of different fronts on that and hope to have something back fairly soon. What we can do. There are a number of issues that are happening with it, and we realize with a number of businesses. It's one of the reasons I think what we've got to look at is the public space that we have how we do it better and how we provide services better. And I think again there are some places that are better for us to provide service and deal with homelessness and take care of that, and there are some places that are better to deal with commerce. We hope to have something in the very near future. We've been looking at it, but we want to come forward with a couple of ideas. And I see Lawrence in the back, and I see Keith. I know they've been working it. We haven't had a chance to sit down and sort of compile all the thoughts of all the meetings we've had and where we go. with that. We've had a number of issues. It'd be nice when we can kind of get to a point where not every other week we have a tropical storm or a hurricane that we're dealing with. That will allow us to actually do some real effective planning. But again, it's one of the things we're going to have to get with, because it's going to be a little bit of everything. It's going to be some dealing with a bunch of different departments at once, looking how we do that. I think we're still very focused on how we can provide services. I think what's going to be also very important is how we can work with individual service providers, because I don't think the city or the county themselves, I don't think government itself can take care of all the problem with us. We're going to need to partner with those agencies that do this. Obviously, both, as we've discussed before, whether it was COVID or Sally, has basically eliminated most all of our shelters and making it very difficult for us to shelter people. So I think then we need to figure out, okay, how do we use public space more effectively to allow everybody to use it, because the public space is for everyone, and that means it's for everyone. It's not for just one group. It's not for just homeless. The public space is for everyone, and we need to figure out a way that effectively everyone can use that public space and feel that they have a right to do so. So we're working with that, and I do expect we'll have some answers on that as we move forward.
Just to follow up on that, I mean, this has been a problem that multiple administrations have tried to tackle, and nothing really ever seems to change or move forward in it. What will be different about this time as opposed to past times?
We've tried to talk to both parties. We've talked to merchants. We've talked to those individuals that deal with feeding the homeless. Again, we're going to try to figure out what it is, but you're exactly right, Jim. I mean, this is not a problem that we got into overnight, and it was exacerbated, made even worse since March. So I think the reason people have seen it more acutely is we've had more challenges since March with what's happened, losing the number of providers. So for us, it will be a chance to kind of I mean, even the things we talked about a year ago are not as relevant now because of dealing with it's very hard. You have no shelters open, and it's very hard to find places that you can deal with it, because with COVID, it just makes it very difficult the last thing you want to do is congregate people. That's not, shelters are typically a place where you end up congregating a lot of people together. You find an economy of scale, bringing in people and working forward. And again, whether it's Loaves and Fishes, Waterfront Mission, Bright Bridges, opening doors. I mean, they've all had challenges because of COVID that weren't there before. So it's made it a little bit different than what we've looked at before. Although some of the things are still similar, I think some of the things will be the same. I do think it'll be a little bit different. And part of the problem is we continue to have our focus so much right now on storm and storm repair. We continue to deal with that. I've been getting a lot of emails from people that are dealing with the waterfront. They want to know, when's the waterfront going to be fixed? And I'm trying to remind them that all of the waterfront was uninsured damage, which means it'll all be dependent upon FEMA, which means we will get it done. But it means we're going to have to go through FEMA's process to get it done, which I don't have to tell any of you, that is not going to happen overnight. So let's set some realistic expectations for the waterfront. It's not going to be finished overnight. It will get finished. We will get to the waterfront and we will get it repaired. But everything that we're working with FEMA at this point, we are in good financial position. We're not in a financial position where we could take on all the uninsured losses from Sally. So we will be dependent upon FEMA. We will have to work through their schedule and work through their process, and it won't happen immediately, but it will happen. Okay. Joe, what did you ask me before? Question on Jim. What was the question we had right before that?
About D1?
No, not about
Garden Street.
Garden Street.
Jefferson. North
Okay,
Jefferson.
all right. Yeah, I was thinking there were some other projects we've got that are continuing to move forward. I was thinking there was something, but again, when I look at what we still want to get back to is creating those places where we can create spaces and create more walkable communities. I think we've seen that. I think if we show what the infrastructure can do, we'd love to get, I know what it was about Bayfront. We'd love to have Bayfront back open and usable in what we talked about. The reason we haven't done it before that is because of the barges, but they've removed one barge. They're in the process of getting the second barge out, and hopefully this week they'll have the third barge off, and once they have all the barges off of Bayfront, I think we can begin to look at some of those other things. But when you see what we can have and what we can create, again, these are things we want to get back to. I think it creates a vibrant downtown in the space that we use. The vibrancy itself takes care of some of the problems, even though it can create new ones. But I think if we're prepared for that as we come out of COVID, I think this is what it's going to be about, and how we position ourselves to come out of COVID. Because at some point, that's whether it's hopefully maybe this vaccine that's coming forward, or the chance that the virus is becoming less viral. One of those two things is going to happen over time, and we're going to need to position ourselves to be in a much better place to take advantage of it. Again, I feel when you look at what happened with us compared to other communities and where we are with our tax base and the things that have happened, we're in a very good position. We find ourselves doing very well financially relative to the world and the rest of the country. I think that was done because we've made good decisions, and we've invested wisely in the people and the infrastructure that we have here. If we continue to do that, which we want to do with whether it's Jefferson Street or the things that we're talking about down here in that area, the CRA, I think the better we make those investments and get through and actually get them constructed, the better we'll be. The better we make the improvements that we've made at Langley. We're about to reopen that next week. So I think those things will help Langley and Scenic Heights, and those are challenges when you talk about District 1 that have been talked about for some time. Is how do we make Langley safer? How do we make other areas safer for our pedestrians? And then finally, how do we create better amenities? And I truly believe, even though there's a lot of turmoil in dealing with the soccer fields as they went forward, I think in 2 years from now, when we see what's there and we have something that's working and viable for all of our citizens to participate in, I think it will be a much different place, and we'll see what's there, just like all of our other recreational facilities. The City of Pensacola does an incredible job with its recreation and its sports activities, and really I say there's very few places that I see that provide the level that the City of Pensacola does. And again, I think at the end of the day, we're going to be able to do the same thing with what we're doing with our soccer program, and it's going to be a great asset for our community. Yes?
One last thing up here. You mentioned vibrancy and revitalization. It is an exciting time. I think this weekend, if you were downtown, Seafood Festival and all that, Pensacola looked like the buzz was back post-COVID, even though people were being smart about it. But you raised an objection with ECUA about their plans to site a 8 million gallon sewage overflow storage tank out on West Main. And in your objections, you talked about the vibrancy of West Main, the revitalization, the gateway to the city. That property that they're looking at is zoned industrial. And you said that you would work with them to look at other options and choices. Have you talked to ECUA since you...
We have. We talked to them last Tuesday after we met here. We stand by that. We don't like that location only because what we've done in Sanders Beach and what we've tried to do there, I think what you're going to see with American Creosote, which may be eventually getting to the final place where we can begin to implement the plans for a park there, what we have with Sanders Beach and the amenities we've placed there, the other things that we've been doing, seeing so much residential housing come in. Granted, they are industrial properties from an industrial past, but I think the future that's coming into that area, whether it's Hallmark School or a variety of other things that are just happening in the Tanyers, are showing clearly a strong residential growth and strong, the values are supporting it all throughout what's happening there, which has created some of its own problems that we're dealing with. But I mean, typically these are positive things that you want to see in a community that you're trying to build. We think putting the ECUA putting that there is challenging. Now, again, the good news is they're still in the middle of their due diligence and they're working within that. We had a good conversation with them. And let me say, this ECUA is much different than ECUA past. I really credit a lot of it to Bruce Woody. I mean, he's at least bringing forward ideas and a willingness to talk, and the board members have been. We met with their board member Lois Benson, who is that district and lives down here in downtown, committed to downtown vibrancy. We talked with her about it, and we're trying to get them to move. We think we have a spot for them that fits a lot of the things that would work. There are 2 industrial spots that are on pace that we're working with. Now they're at different levels of sale. They weren't necessarily what ECUA wants to buy. They were much larger pieces, but would potentially a portion of it be available? We think so. We're working with them on one of those sites. There's another site that isn't necessarily for sale, but could be. And then finally, there's a public site we're looking at. We have enough acreage behind the fields at Bill Gregory that if we had a place constructed over there, it would not be visible necessarily from any main road, and the stuff that it would be visible from the people playing at the park. You could create a design on the tanks that would make it accessible to what would happen. Heck, maybe even a green position on there, batter's eye, dealing with what happens with baseball. But there is enough room there. It's also, because of where it is, close to the water, we know right there. We know we're almost at elevation 0 or very low, which is what they need. And not only that, they currently have an ECUA pump on site, and they have a sewer line transmissioning through there that they have an easement already on, that they could bring their stuff already there that they're transmitting for. So we believe it has a lot of pluses. Now, ECUA has not said it totally fits what they need. We believe at least the parameters of the way they've been told to us could work, even if they had to build 2. If they weren't able to build just one huge place, they had to go with 2 smaller ones that gave the same amount of volume. We still think it would work, and we think it could work also because it could certainly be for us, it could be a non-cash, figure out the way it happens. We have things that we work with, and ECUA ask for payments from us, using them and allowing them to use it as a way for us to do that, and we both could work to the betterment of a number of projects between city and ECUA that could work better. So we have proposed this to them. I know as of this morning, I communicated with Lois, Bruce, and Robert Beasley, their attorney, and so they said they are still looking at the Bill Gregory site, and they're trying to work with us on the other 2. So we have absolutely reached out to them. We have provided. We understand their parameters, and while they're a little bit further than the Main and Barrancas site, we tried to explain to them that we just didn't think Main and Barrancas was going to fit what we want to create as a real entranceway for the west side from downtown, and really what's happening in the Sanders Beach and Tanyard area. We just think it's inconsistent with what's happening there, and there may be places that it could be placed that are either industrial use on Pace or perhaps somewhere else, like dealing on a public property like Bill Gregory, that really it's not visible and fronts any neighborhood in any particular way, and there's already ECUA assets on that property.
Mayor, you have a Main Street improvement plan that the city, and I think the CRA's had it for several years now. Is your thinking the city's going to wait for development to ask for rezoning in that area, or is the city thinking about a new overlay that would describe new land use zoning?
John, I hadn't thought about it as much on that standpoint. I know the capital plan of what we would love to do is have everything what we have from clubs down to City Hall, what you see Main Street looking like. We would love to see that extend from clubs. We can get it to B. We're already planning to get it to B. Then we'd love to take it all the way out to Barrancas. So, we would love to have that was what it looked like going forward. And I think when we got to those kind of amenities and public infrastructure, it would be easier for us to look at potentially rezoning. But there may be some things right now that are probably better fit over there in that area than some of the industrial zonings. But it's a challenge that we're working through. Clearly, Bell Steel leaving the area, a variety of other industrial uses leaving the area has allowed it to refill and be different. And it's so funny, so many times you see old neighborhoods that eventually become commercial. This is kind of the exact opposite. You have an industrial area now becoming residential. And I think much the same way of that, you'll eventually see that zoning. We've allowed it to happen piecemeal, but I'm not saying we couldn't go look at it more. But I mean, we're still being respectful of some of the uses that are there, but as they sell out and move on, I think it would be natural that we would have a different type of zoning maybe overlay in that area as we go forward.
Just to follow up on that, on the Bill Gregory site, there's a lot of wetlands over there. Is that
My understanding is we're not talking about the wetlands. We're talking about the area behind the baseball field. We have an area we currently have it. If you drive over there, there's an overflow parking area. The challenge is, we would lose our overflow parking, but at this point, the usage that we've seen at Bill Gregory hasn't even gotten close to pushing us to an overuse time period. So we could take that overuse lot area, and we could take the area to the south. There aren't many places. Most areas you think of as you go further south, there'd be more wetlands. Actually, at Bill Gregory, it's like as you go further north, you hit the wetlands, and we would not go into the wetlands there. That's already been redone. It's already a retention pond and everything else, the facility that we put in there. We're looking at the other portion. And again, right there as you look at the overflow lot, if you go over there, there's a huge ECUA pump station. And back there, right along where the railroad tracks is, there's an easement where there's already an ECUA line that's already being used to transmit across there. The reason I even thought about it is shortly after I became mayor, we had a break right there, and we didn't even know about it. That it had happened, and then they had gone in and repaired it. Since then, we've gotten much better. It was one of the things that caused a little tension between us and ECUA and the old system and the old way of doing things. I think that, and the chance for us to express our grievance about not even knowing about the break and having it repaired on our property without being told about it, those were some challenges. Again, ECUA is 180 degrees different. They're much more proactive in working with us, so I don't want any problems in the past to cloud where we're going right now. We communicate to them with the email. They've been very upfront meeting with us, and they understand and are working. But we understand, we're a little cognizant as well that this is something that we have to do for the betterment of our community. We really don't want to do it there. We'd like to explore some other options. But if we somehow found a way that those options weren't able to work, we'd obviously have to look there because we understand the need. Sewer infrastructure is important to a community. We can't go without it. But if we could maybe we've asked them to be a little bit creative and look at some different options. So that's where we are. And I'll just say this much. They are so much more open and accessible and willing to discuss things. So I very much want to compliment ECUA and their willingness to work with us on this, and I really do appreciate that. Well, that's our first one that we've gone to 10:30, but we had a lot to talk about, so thank you.